My name's Matt Tyler. I lead the men's project at Jesuit Social Services, where we have a vision that all boys and men can live respectful, accountable, fulfilling lives free from violence and other harmful behaviours. We recently worked with our policy team to develop a submission in response to the federal government's draft plan to reduce violence against women and their children. Our submission highlighted a number of challenges, and these are challenges that we hear from our frontline staff. Staff who are working with victim survivors of family violence, and are also working with people who have perpetrated violence and spent time in prison. We know that rigid attachments to stereotypical ideas about what it means to be a man are tightly linked to both the use of violence and also a range of other harmful behaviours. Exposure to violence during childhood also has profound impacts on people's lives. While by no means deterministic, the reality is that many of the people we work with who have spent time in prison were once victims of family violence. The service system is not meeting the needs of adolescents who use violence at home, with profound consequences for people in their lives, oftentimes their mothers and their siblings, and also disastrous consequences for adolescents themselves who are being exposed to the justice system at a young age and sometimes end up experiencing homelessness. There's then a range of structural and systemic issues. More work is needed to ensure cultural safety for Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people. And the reality is, we hear over and over again that the needs of culturally and linguistically diverse people are too often not met. Data is oftentimes held in silos in different institutions, which makes it really hard to facilitate evidence-based reform. And then finally, too often victim survivors of family violence can become disconnected from the various services that are seeking to keep them safe. And so our submission puts forward a number of recommendations for what the national plan needs, and I'll touch on a few of these here. First, with regards to prevention and particularly work to engage men and boys, we've got to see a greater emphasis on workforce capacity building. Our Modelling Respect and Equality program works with teachers, social workers, faith leaders, people in roles that have the opportunity to positively influence men and boys every day. We equip them with the skills, knowledge and confidence to challenge stereotypical ideas about what it means to be a man and ultimately prevent the use of violence. Second, with regards to early intervention, adolescents who use violence in the home should be a priority. In partnership with the Melbourne Children's Court through one of our programs, Restore, we're working with adolescents and their families to reset relationships so that young people can remain safely at home. Our Navigator program works to prevent disengagement with school. We know that too many young people who drop out of school end up being exposed to the criminal justice system. And then finally, with regards to response, at the risk of stating the obvious, we've got to see adequate funding. With regards to both services for victim survivors, with specialised services for children who have been exposed to or have witnessed violence, and then also for people who have used violence, to hold them to account and to prevent them re-offending. My hope is that the challenges and recommendations that we've put forward through this submission inform both the plan, but more critically, inform much needed action. There's so much work to do if we're going to see a future free from gender-based violence.